When Don asked me to speak to you this evening, I have to admit I wondered what I was going to talk about. In Don's style, he asked me to reflect on why we do this work. He asked me to inspire, to motivate, to display intellectual firepower, to provide an emotional perspective on the current movement to reform education. And then he told me I had 15 minutes to do it. Indeed, it was a daunting task. Facing the tyranny of the blank page, I reflected on what I've really learned from my involvement in the Lastinger Center. And one word seemed to capture it all: leadership. First, I invite you to look around the room. Each person here today is a leader in his or her own right. Some of you hold formal titles such as president, CEO, director, or dean. Others of you take informal leadership roles, leading by example or leading through collaboration. What you can be sure of is that each of you here this evening is a pioneer. Leadership was something that was foreign to me before I began my work in the Lastinger Center. I was often fond of saying that I was a better follower. Like so many teachers, I thought leadership was for the folks who were in the main office down the hall. In my 8th grade classroom in the South Bronx, I stayed to myself, I kept a lid on things, and no one seemed to bother me, check up on me, or even ask what I was doing. Without textbooks, I created my own project-based curriculum as I went, working with my students and my own mutual interests. We studied mythical heroes and reading, which we then turned into constellations in science. In writing class, we designed our own superheroes, villains, and vigilantes, which we then took down to the headquarters of DC Comics in Manhattan to have them critiqued by the editors of Superman and Supergirl. We did all of this without interacting with the school leadership, except when we had to fill out field trip forms and book requests. I never thought of myself as a teacher leader. During my time in the classroom, the only kind of leadership I may have displayed could be described as guerrilla leadership, figuring it was always better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. Today, there are too many teachers that follow this same approach. Too often in education, there exists what some scholars call a pervasive egalitarian norm in schools that prevents so many individuals from striving for greatness and leadership. Teachers shy away from opportunities and to take on challenges and responsibilities at their schools because of an all too real fear that they may be ostracized by their colleagues for trying to stand out. Unfortunately, this is sometimes even truer for students who may be mocked by peers for excelling in school. Perhaps too many of us try to be too cool for school, and we end up settling for being average. While public schools like those partnered with the Lastinger Center can and should be our society's great equalizer, we cannot and should not expect the individuals that attend and work at them to be equal in every way. To do so would be to neglect the diversity of talents, interests, and perspectives that make up the fabric of our great society. We should strive for a day when we achieve the meritocracy that we always imagine ourselves to be. A place where children, regardless of race, creed, gender, or family income, go as far as their merit and their effort take them. Given the way that our society and schools are currently structured, we can never achieve this dream. While I don't want to dismiss the impact of structural inequities on economic opportunity, I want to focus on educational policy for now. And the major goal of our current educational policy is standardization. Continuing the trends of the last decade and beyond, we are moving slowly and faithfully towards national standards and a national test. Now, this in itself is not a bad thing, unless we also continue the trend of making every fateful decision about students based on their success on a single standardized test each year. And it is undeniable that our current educational policies have led to a narrow curriculum that focuses almost exclusively on answering multiple choice questions based on deep contextualized reading passages and math problems. We strive for arbitrarily set goals for reading and math proficiency toward the elusive dream of achieving 100% proficiency by the year 2014. And then we penalize schools for not making progress towards these goals each year. This is absolutely nonsensical. It is, as Diane Ravitch points out, akin to punishing police stations for not eliminating crime. Worse yet, we reward school leaders for achieving success and turning around a challenged school by transferring them to another failing school, guided by the false assumption that what works for one school should work for all schools. Indeed, the reward system for educators is backward. These working conditions drive more and more teachers into isolation in their classrooms where they do what they are told, when they are told to do it. They are handed pacing guides and scripted curricula, and they are monitored for compliance and an ever-increasing automation of the teaching profession. It is no wonder that 50% of the teachers leave the profession within their first 5 years in the classroom. It is within this very difficult context where the Lastinger Center must find its niche. It is in this world that we try to build spaces for educators to be treated and to treat one another as professionals. At a systems level, we are trying to support those teachers that want to excel and to develop schools where having intellectual curiosity and asking questions are encouraged and celebrated. And most of all, we are trying to convince educators of the truth of Roland Barthes' revolutionary claim: all teachers can lead. This notion is currently as foreign to school systems and educators as the now widely accepted saying, all students can learn, was just 50 years ago when students of color and students with special needs were routinely, if not systematically, neglected and excluded. If there is one good thing about our current education policies, it is that for the first time in our history, we have institutionalized the practice of devoting time, attention, and resources to all children served by a school. Indeed, we not only believe that all children can learn, we ensure schools live up to this belief. We need a similar sea change in regards to our beliefs about the capability of teachers. While not every teacher will hold a formal leadership role as an instructional coach or on a school-wide committee, every teacher has within her some passion that can improve the school. Be it a passion for curriculum design, schedule organization, poetry, or athletics. We should do more in schools to capitalize on teachers' vast knowledge and skills about topics, academic and otherwise, to make learning something that students can be proud of. We can accomplish this by creating spaces for teachers to lead and to support them and their principals in developing shared leadership. Through our work, we have created a job-embedded graduate program to provide teachers the opportunity to gain a new perspective on their work through ongoing inquiry and reflection. Indeed, it is a transformational experience for so many of them who come into the program looking for an advanced degree and leave the program energized and empowered as competent classroom teachers and school reformers. Moreover, we provide structures for these very teachers to spread what they've learned to their colleagues through communities of practice and guided inquiry experiences. These experiences ensure that our work is not about targeting 3 or 4 teachers in a building. It is about achieving a critical mass of educators and equipping them with the skills necessary to effect substantial change in school culture. Essentially, we try to convince teachers and principals that it's not good enough to be a master teacher. Good teachers are also good leaders. As good leaders, good teachers accept collective responsibility for the learning of all the students in their school, and they encourage others to embrace that responsibility also. As good leaders, good teachers make their practice public by sharing what is working with others, as well as being open and honest in seeking advice about what's not. And as good leaders, good teachers help to define the school's vision of success by setting high expectations and making sure that students and staff live up to them. Recently, one of the teachers in my courses reflected on the success of implementing a strategy of doing daily affirmations with children. Affirmations have been demonstrated to be highly successful in building student self-confidence and efficacy. That's right, a simple routine of having the students repeat positive statements that support their belief in themselves can have a measurable impact on their performance in school. If only all school reform techniques were this easy. This teacher decided to begin her classes each morning by having the students repeat aloud, "If I believe, I can achieve." It seemed to be the favorite among many affirmations that the class auditioned. One morning, a particularly rambunctious and struggling student, who we'll call Mark, began his routine spiral down when students were asked to count a collection of coins that was displayed on a classroom chart. Noticing this, another student stopped working long enough to whisper to Mark, "If you believe, you can achieve." Which prompted Mark to think a little bit, and then he returned to working. What that student did was an act of courage and bravery. Indeed, it was an act of leadership, brought on by the leadership of the teacher in the classroom. And I think it's a powerful example of the brand of leadership that we engender through our work in the Lastinger Center. It demonstrates that good leadership is about empowerment, not coercion. Leadership is about setting a mission and working hand in hand with others to accomplish that mission. And most importantly, leadership begets leadership. Indeed, everyone can lead. My experiences with the Lastinger Center have indeed taught me a great deal about shared leadership. My first experiences with the Lastinger Center began by working with Doreen Ross to lead a group of 8 teachers at Metcalf Elementary here in Gainesville. That initial experience taught me a great deal about leading teacher development work. I learned the nuances of alternating support and pressure to push teachers beyond what they thought they were capable of, encouraging that they do the same for their students. Today I work with a team of people in Miami, where we led professional development opportunities for over 1,300 Miami-Dade educators this year alone. And all of it builds on that basic principle that we can accomplish together what we cannot do alone. Right now, we are in the midst of what is being called a Sputnik moment for U.S. education. The President and the Secretary of Education often cite international comparisons which say that our students lag behind those in China, Korea, Finland, and Singapore. And they also cite unacceptably high student dropout rates, which hover around 10% for Black students and over 18% for Hispanic students. And that's even by the conservative estimates. Certainly such calls for an overhaul of the country's education system are nothing new. But the current call provides an interesting opportunity for the Lastinger Center to show the country a thing or two about what we know of leadership. Through our work with the Kellogg Foundation, we have positioned ourselves as a national leader in teacher development. In addition, the recent award from the Association of Teacher Educators and the expansion of the Florida Master Teacher Initiative through the I3 program were no coincidences. Alongside our many and various partners, we are increasingly being recognized as a forerunner in a national effort to improve teacher quality. In fact, the very nature of our partnership work provides a model for the kind of shared leadership that we hope to see in schools and districts. As the recognition of teacher quality as the most important in-school factor influencing student success increasingly becomes a part of the public consciousness, the time is right for us to lead by pioneering innovative, job-embedded, professional development strategies that are meaningful to educators and have a tangible impact on students. But this is not a time for us to attempt to lead by leaving others behind. Rather, if my experience here at the Lastinger Center has taught me anything, it's that we should demonstrate our leadership by working alongside others to teach them to lead similar efforts across the country and the globe. As we are sought after for our expertise in developing teachers, let us lead by empowering others to do for their communities what we have done for ours. Let us lead by teaching others to learn for themselves and those that they serve. Thank you.